Do you think that there are people who are stuck in the concept of liking a bad life?
Le gusta la mala vida.
Yeah.
We kind of have to start off with, asking ourselves what a bad life is. You know what I mean? We have to start off with what is your definition of a bad life? Like, my definition of a bad life is working for somebody else.
Really?
Yeah, that is my definition of of living a bad life.
Okay.
Whereas in somebody else, that might be their ultimate fulfillment. Working for a company that they believe in and then retiring. That might not be a bad life at all.
Yeah.
Benefits, living off of benefits, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Me, on the other hand, I believe in working for myself.
Of course.
So, what is your definition of of living a bad life?
My definition of living a bad life is like constantly living in the same cycles of conflict and never growing past them.
Okay, not learning from your mistakes.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, I can see that, and I agree with it. So, by my definition, do people like living a bad life? Do people not like working for themselves? That's hard to say. That's very hard to say because it comes with the culture. Because depending on which culture you were raised around, it'll tell you what to do when it comes to what a good life is and what a bad life is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For example, the Japanese, they have a very strong sense of working for somebody else, working until like they are dead tired. They are very used to. You've seen my posts before about that.
The people that will fall asleep on subways. Yeah.
And it's honorable. That's a very honorable thing. So over there, that's a good life.
Yeah.
Over here, though, if you're overworked to the point where you're just like falling asleep at the wheel or falling asleep in public places, like a homeless person, it's frowned upon.
Correct.
You know what I mean? You're a workaholic. You don't have time for your family. You don't have time for your kids. So we have to really look at the culture that we're talking about first, and then I feel like we can kind of reverse engineer it going back. So let's focus on Hispanic culture because we're both Hispanic. So I definitely agree that people like the bad life because I think they find interest in it, or they just don't know any better, and that's the worst.
It is.
It's the worst when a culture just doesn't, when they deliberately live a bad life because they don't know any better. It's you got those blinders on, you know what I mean? And it's such a closed-minded life to live. They're closed off to any other ideas. But what do you think?
I think some people choose to live that life, though, and that's what's upsetting to me.
Yes.
Is because these events keep occurring. Like, I'm a very big believer on if something bad happens to you, analyze it, take a look at the bad, what happened, and then figure out where you went wrong in it so that you don't do it again. Or that way the next time it happens, you handle it differently. So that way it doesn't have such a great effect on you. And then you can just keep moving forward, right? So when I see people going through the same things, making the same choices, making those same bad choices, and then when they get called on it, or they're having to suffer the repercussions for their negative action, and they're like, well, it's not my fault. I'm just like, are you fucking with me right now?
I agree. I believe in that. I just recently came across a really wonderful quote that I've never heard before.
Yeah.
And it talks about how this man doesn't understand why people are afraid of new ideas.
Okay.
He's actually afraid of old ideas.
Oh.
So that's a beautiful quote because when you find somebody that lives a very traditional life, and they're very stuck in their ways, we spoke about this before, like, oh, that's the way my father did it, that's the way my grandfather did it. I hate that shit. I hate hearing that shit because that is not good. That is not good. Your father's what, 50, 60 years old?
Exactly.
That's in a 50, 60-year-old culture, 50, 60-year-old way of living, and you're still living that way. You've made no progress. Your father has failed to raise you to be a better man than him. And so I love that quote. It's like, I don't understand. So the quote is, I don't understand why people are afraid of new ideas. I'm afraid of old ideas. And that's what I compile to holding on to culture, is those old ideas, and they're just not letting go. And so they choose to live that bad life, la mala vida, la raza. You know what I mean? They do it with pride.
They do it with pride.
That's so reverse thinking for me. So like they do it with pride. as you know what I mean.
Sometimes it's funny, like, don't get me wrong, sometimes like you see these memes, you see these videos out here about like how Latinas are crazy or whatever, and it's funny, but then when you really kind of look at it, it's like it's toxic. It's not good.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to be more than that, or at least I would hope people want to be more than that, but then there's some people like who hold on to that pride, and they're like, this is what people expect of me, this is what's considered attractive or valuable, so therefore I'm going to be that.
Right.
It's just like, well, I don't know.
They've made no progress when it comes to that. Yeah. And I'll be honest, you know, being a Hispanic man surrounded by Hispanic women, I see that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's very toxic. It's toxic, you know. They hold on to traditions. So how about this? Let's talk about stereotypical gender roles as well, because that's part of this problem.
It is part of this problem.
Yeah.
It is part of this problem. And don't get me wrong, I love our culture. There's a lot of beauty to it. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with certain aspects of it, but I also feel like growth needs to happen.
Right.
It should happen. Because I'm really tired of other people who aren't part of our culture coming down here and thinking that they can speak to us a certain way because of these conceptions they have about our culture, or going elsewhere like in the US and people thinking they can speak to me or others around me a certain way because of the way that they perceive our culture.
So are they perceiving the culture incorrectly, or is it right?
It's incorrectly when it comes to myself.
Right. You
know what I mean? And like, you cannot base an entire culture off like the mass. There are going to be individuals within that set group mm-hmm. who are more than the rest, but I think that applies to any culture.
Right, of course.
I
agree. That's difficult because that is again talking about stereotypes.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking about stereotypes, and that's a very individualistic case because again, I'm not the common Hispanic man either. I don't drink, I don't smoke. I'm against all that stuff, and mm-hmm. I detest Mexican music. I do. Mm-hmm. I just don't like it because here's my thing. If you want to look at a culture, mm-hmm. look at their music. And Mexican music is heavy with like drink your sorrows away.
Yeah.
Drink your sorrows away, dance them away. You know what I mean? It's all about the party, it's all about the life. And I never hear any of them really talk about like friends and family.
Okay, what about like Los Laureles?
See, I don't even listen to Mexican music. So
I'm
a terrible reference. Yeah. But when I do hear it,
mm-hmm.
I listen to the lyrics and I'm just like, man, is that the stereotype we want to reinforce? Because as an artist, it's their responsibilities to kind of bring up or shut down stereotypes. Mm-hmm. And next time you listen to Mexican music, just listen to the lyrics.
Yeah.
Just listen to the lyrics, because it's so heavy set on alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Like it's so heavy set on alcohol to the point where take alcohol away from Mexican culture, what is it? Family, and then like that's it.
Yeah.
It's family and pride.
Yeah.
And pride is a double-edged sword. It's not always a good thing. Because
in moderation.
Right, and moderation. So think about it like that. Combine those three elements: pride in alcohol, mm-hmm. pride in family. You know what I mean? A lot of times those things just don't combine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they just cause a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
But that's my personal outlook on Hispanic culture. I always bring it down to the music. If you like, same thing. If you want to look at country music, it'll tell you what Texas is like, and it's dead set accurate. It's dead set. It's why I don't like country music. Country music, it talks about the same things over and over. Like one of my least favorite songs, and I know I'm gonna get scolded for it, but I don't care. It's my opinion.
Yeah.
Is that song that says, "Some people say I have a drinking problem."
Yeah.
And I hate that. It's glorifying being an alcoholic, and I'm like, why is that okay? Like, why are you letting, because think about it like this. Don't think about how you feel about this music and the attitude it inspires in you. Yeah. Think about the kids. Think about how your kids feel about that. Mm-hmm. They're walking around school singing, people say I have a drinking problem and I don't have a problem at all, because they like to, and they think it's okay. They say it over and over and over and over again, thinking, you know what? Having a drinking problem is part of my culture.
So then it's like feeding the negative.
Yes, it's definitely
making it the norm, making it seem okay, cool.
Making it seem not not even cool. It's expected of you. You know what I mean?
I would say acceptable is more appropriate.
Acceptable. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I can agree with that. But that's the problem that I have is if you listen to the music, because forget you. You're already grown. You're mature. You know what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
But what about the kids? You know what I mean?
You're right.
What about the kids? That's the approach that you want to have is when you look at a culture, especially Hispanic culture, and they listen to this music, they think, hey, as a Hispanic man, I'm supposed to be an alcoholic. I'm supposed to be frivolous with sex. I'm supposed to have, sorrows every time my woman leaves, and I'm supposed to shoot people up and do crazy stuff, corridos. You get what I mean. So that's the problem that I have is like if you really want to look at a culture, look at their music, but don't look at it from don't look at it from your 28-year-old eyes. Look at it from 18-year-old eyes. Look at it from 16-year-old eyes, 14-year-old eyes. That's what the music is influencing, not you. Forget you. Don't be selfish. Think about what it's doing to the youth. You know what I mean? So when it comes down to a la gente le gusta la mala vida, they're doing it to themselves.
They are doing it to themselves.
They're doing it to themselves and they're doing it to each other.
And like where I live, like all the houses are relatively close to each other, right? So you know what's going on in your neighbor's house, on the sides of you and across the street. And it's not just because they're all outside congregating, like having their events. They play this loud music and you get to see pretty much like everything that happens and listen to everything that happens. And like you said, they play that type of music. They all drink rather profusely. And it's just, by the time like I'll get home late at night, there's conflicts.
Right.
Because they're either blocking my driveway or they're just playing their music too loud or something. But it's a constant cycle.
Yeah. They do it to each other.
They do it to each other.
They do it to each
all
other.
the time.
I agree. And it's hard. Something I will say, growing up in Georgia, that's something that I very quickly got out of when I came down to the valley, because remember, I'm not from here. I'm from Georgia now, but I've been here long enough to understand what the valley is. I've lived in Mexico long enough to understand what Mexico is like, so I'm no foreign to those aspects of life. But one thing when I came down from Georgia, I very quickly noticed that you're not supposed to say good morning to people.
Why?
Yeah, because look, so here's the thing. When I came down here, a very strong habit that I had from Georgia and that people have in Georgia because people down here in Texas think they have Southern hospitality. That and at least in the Valley, I personally completely disagree. I don't think people in the Valley know what Southern hospitality is. No. Because in Georgia and in Tennessee, every time you see somebody, you say good morning. You say hello. You look them in the eyes and you say, hello, good morning, how are you? You know what I mean? You know who these people are. And it's not a small town. It's not, the Valley is a small town. But all these really large places, you say good morning to each other. When I brought that down here to the Valley, people thought I was trying to sell them something. Women thought I was trying to hit on them. People thought I was like invading their bubble or something. Yeah.
I get it all the time. I don't know if it's because I'm a woman or what it is.
Probably because you're a woman. But when I do it, when I say, hey, good morning, how are you doing? They're just like, whatever you're selling, I'm not interested.
Really?
Like, are you fucking, I'm just trying. So I stopped doing it. I stopped doing it altogether because apparently that's like a thing. Everybody's got their own space. You just don't break that. They got
their own bubble.
Yeah, they got their own bubble. And I have seen it when they do it with each other. You know what I mean? But it's a 50-50. It's like sometimes you'll offend somebody by saying good morning, trying to shake their hand. Sometimes they'll know, hey, you're not from here. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I know who you are. I know what you're doing, and they embrace it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've been. It's been so hard me trying to say good morning and be myself with people, because when I do it, they immediately think like, what do you want? Like, what do you want? What are you trying to sell me something? You want money? Like they just
damn.
They give me this
that's
look.
So aggressive.
They do, yeah. Especially other men that they just like, you know what I mean. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Really
yeah,
is.
It's a challenge. So that's something that I've noticed coming from the north down here, that you just can't have a conversation with people like that. Yeah, you can't just. unless it's with each other. I feel like the people that don't like that, when they try to talk to each other, they congregate very easily because they know they're both like that, I suppose. But that's something that I've noticed when it comes to culture down here. What other things have you noticed?
I'm sorry, I'm just like still tripping out with the fact that you were like about good morning and hello, because it's so easy for me. It's just a very natural thing. Yeah. It's very rare when I'll go somewhere and either someone doesn't say good morning to me as I'm walking in, or if I say it back, or if I acknowledge someone, like I don't get a response.
So you've done it before where you say it and you don't get a response? Very
rarely has it happened, and more often than not, they're just not paying attention.
I feel like it's because you're a female, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you said good morning, I'd be all over it. I'd be all over it. Oh yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing? Yes. But it's something that I felt right away. I was like, okay, people down here get offended easily.
Yeah.
They're in their own bubble. That's another thing. You can't talk about politics. You can't talk about politics.
Or the Cowboys.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Sports and politics. People hang on to it like it's a religion. It's actually worse than a religion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But and that's terrible. You should be more willing to just share, whether people agree with you or not.
I agree.
Share with what you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I was in Georgia, I knew my neighbors and I knew them by name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'd see them, hey, Jerry, how you doing? Good morning. You know what I mean? How, and then let's say we talk about politics. I'm like, okay, we have a conversation because we want to listen to each other.
Yeah.
Not because we want to prove each other wrong or we're ready to like give our opinion.
That is something that's really rather prevalent. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like that's really prevalent here. People feel the need to prove other people wrong.
Yes.
Why?
Quickly.
I don't get it.
When it comes to men, and here's something that I've noticed. When it comes to men, whenever they get home, nobody listens to them. That's something that I've noticed here in the Valley, is they're ready to go off on their opinions out in the world, because at home, nobody's listening to them. Not their kids, not their wife. Yeah, you get what I mean?
Sorry, it's so sad.
They have this bottled up opinion that they want to share with the world. And they're just like ready to pounce at the opportunity, like, oh man, this guy's got an opinion. Let me just share mine because I'm at home and nobody listens to what I have to say. You know what I mean? And up in the north, man, so here, like, let's talk about this topic. If you're down in the valley and you're in a family and you want to talk about money, you do not talk about money.
Yeah.
Hispanic culture, it is a stigma. You never talk about money.
It's true.
It's the devil. It's evil. You just no.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
It's like an overshare of information.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Georgia, higher up north, they talk about money all the time.
Really?
Yeah. With my neighbors, I spoke about money all the time. They talk about investing. They talk about a nice lot that they want to buy. They talk about how much they make, their raise. They talk about money. Talking about money is like a gift. It's like, hey, let me tell you what I make. They're so proud of it.
Yeah.
They're just like, let me tell you how much I make. Let me tell you why I make it. Let me tell you what my plans are for the quarter. That's imagine me growing up, a 16-year-old, and understanding what quarterly earnings are, because that's what I learned from my neighbor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's really cool.
And then down here, Ni
madres.
No, don't talk about money. You do not. It is bad. You might even get fired for talking about money. And it's just like, why? You know what I mean? Why? So that's something that I noticed. And that's the worst part, because your employer benefits from you not talking about money. They only benefit from you not sharing your wages. Let's say, for example, you and me will work in the same position. You're a woman and you make 30% less than I do.
Correct.
You know what I mean? That's bullshit.
Yeah. I agree.
Why is that fair? How are we going to ever find that out if we don't talk about money?
Correct.
You know what I mean? How is that ever going to be addressed? How are we going to get forward together as a people if we don't sit down and just talk about our finances?
You know, and that's like another thing that I found interesting here, is that people don't negotiate their pay like when they first get hired on.
They don't.
That's like something I had to learn as an adult to do. Like I remember I was offered one position, and then like later I found out like I had negotiating room and like power, like after I had already accepted the lower offer, and I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
You know, but then like I was offered a different job with a different company, and I negotiated my way through that, and obviously got more out of it. You know,
just because you see the value.
Absolutely.
You see the value in yourself. But you see what I mean? Like, if you try to do that here,
it's a no-no.
It's a no-no. Better yet, let's say you put you in that situation, you're about to get a job, and you're trying to negotiate your wage. Your employer is going to be like, whoa, this guy is a red flag. We're not going to hire him. We're not going to hire him.
Exactly.
Yeah, because he's talking about the wrong shit. And that's terrible.
It is
because
terrible.
You're only doing it to yourself. So this goes back to, a la gente le gusta la mala vida. They choose not to talk about money. So now they're screwing themselves over and each other because they're not having a collective mind as a people.
Correct.
As Hispanic people, and they're just not moving forward. And that's terrible because you're only doing it to yourself, and you're only doing it to your kids, you're only doing it to your wife, you're only doing it to your neighbor. You know what I mean? The people that you love the most, you're hurting them, and you're holding on to it like it's the last breath that you have is your culture. And it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. You should broaden your horizons, and you should expand your mind and have an open mind for new ideas, new ways of practicing things.
And it gets always really startling. I don't want to say startling. It's like, I guess like I'm in awe and at shock sometimes finding out that there are some people that live here in the valley that have never left the valley.
Oh yeah.
And like they're fine with it. And
I've met those people too. And I asked them.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up because that's something I always ask people. Like, oh hey, do you travel or have you always been in the valley? And the people that are like, oh, I've never left the valley. That's a huge red flag.
Oh yeah, huge
red flag. That is those. I hate to say it, but those are people you want to stay away from.
Absolutely.
They are.
For us, they will murder us.
Yeah, they are the pinnacle of la gente que le gusta
la mala vida.
Absolutely. You'll see the drama. You'll see the drama. You'll see the unhappiness. You'll see the chisme coming out of them. You know what I mean?
They thrive on it.
Yeah. Because they don't know anything else.
They don't.
They don't know what people are like outside of the valley. And,
I know.
The valley's great. It's
its own hub, though.
Yes.
It's its very own bubble. Like I remember when I first moved away from the valley and then getting to experience a different kind of culture, I was like, this is okay.
You can get high off of this.
Yeah, exactly.
I had that feeling when I went to California. The people in California are just amazing. And if you ask somebody in the valley and talk about people from California, they hate them. But if you've actually like met people from Cali, they're amazing.
They're
people.
pretty cool, right?
They're amazing. Yes, they're very open-minded. They have zero judgment. They have their own things going on in life, and they are not afraid to trust people. And that's another thing in the valley. People are afraid to trust anybody.
That's true.
So here's another thing. Let's talk about Georgia and another big difference between Georgia and this part of Texas, the valley. If every single house, you just drive by a neighborhood, every single house has a fence. Every single house has a fence in the valley. In Georgia, you'd be stupid to have a fence.
Really?
Yes, you'd be like, I don't know why. It is like a stigma to have a fence. Like, how can I say this? If you have a fence in Georgia, you're offending your neighbors.
Really?
Yes, you are offending. That's how close it is. That's how close it is in places. So that's what I define as Southern hospitality.
Yeah.
Is you don't put up a fence. You know what I mean? And I've worked with contractors. One of the first things people do with their houses is they get a fucking fence. Do you want it 6 feet? Do you want it 8 feet? Do you want to see their faces or do you not?
They want their privacy.
Or do you want a privacy fence?
Yeah.
That's a huge industry down here because in Georgia, if you have a fence,
it's like saying I don't trust my neighbor.
It's saying I don't trust my neighbor or my neighbor shouldn't trust me because I'm doing some shady shit.
Really?
Behind that fence. Yes, behind that fence. Even in the ghettoest parts of Atlanta, a lot of places don't have fences.
Damn.
It's crazy, right?
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And what I love about it is they share trees. Like every Georgia house, like, has a lot of trees, and they share a lot of those trees. They share the shade. They take care of it. Like you water it one day, you water another day. It becomes a common ground.
Got a lot of trees. I wish my neighbors would help me.
But right.
Yeah.
So in the valley, another problem that you see is when the neighbors don't take care of their yard or their shit, it's a problem for everybody. But how are they going to take care of that if your neighbor's got a security camera on you like 24/7?
No, they do.
Yeah, that's another industry that's
it's
very
weird.
hot. Security alarms down here is very hot. Fences down here are very hot. Nobody trusts each other. Nobody trusts anybody. And then in turn, that causes more friction. That causes more friction.
Yeah.
Over there in Georgia, it's it's people are as smooth as glass, and they're as sweet as honey, and they're as sweet as honey, and that's what Southern hospitality. That's what I grew up to be. Southern hospitality. If you got a fence, you want shady motherfucker. Like,
yeah, man.
Yes, yeah. Whereas so imagine living in a place with a ton of shady people. It causes more shade.
Absolutely, yeah. I get that. No, like my first time experiencing true Southern hospitality is when we moved to Savonal, right? And we were like the only Hispanic family like living on the white side of the tracks. And
they treated you like foreigners, but like in a good way.
I mean, my neighbors across the street were amazing.
Yeah.
You know, like we were moving in. Like, mind you, we had up until that point we had only lived in the valley, and then like we moved to like this like podunk town, super small. And like we finished unloading the U-Haul and we're like relaxing for a little bit, and we hear a knock on the door. And, you know, us being from the valley, we're like, don't answer it.
Yeah. But that, you see how that put a smile on my face?
Yeah.
That put a huge smile on my face as soon as you said, I heard a knock at the door. Because I'm excited to answer my door. Because I was raised that way.
Yeah.
When somebody knocks at your door, hey, yo, like...
Go answer it.
Go answer it, yeah. Like,
get it, yeah.
Who could it be? It could only be somebody good.
Yeah. So... I ended up going to the door, and I opened the door, and like my neighbor had left at this point, but there was this huge basket of goodies.
Yeah.
And I was like,
and this was a small town, right?
Yeah. A beautiful basket, brownies, cookies, like some cake and stuff.
All homemade, yep.
You know, and from there on out, like after I became an adult, that's like something I like to do with my neighbors, because I remember how that made me feel.
Oh yeah, it feels
Granted, I'm not going to do that here in the valley.
Right, no, you'll get shot. They'll think you're trying to poison them.
Exactly. I did it once when I had an apartment in Edinburgh with my neighbors across the way, and they thought something was wrong with me.
Yeah, because that's how the people are in the valley. And it's terrible. I don't want to make this sound like a very negative recording. It should be an eye-opening. You know.
Yeah.
I'm not throwing shade to people in the valley.
After
all, I'm here. It's what I'm saying is like we gotta put down our fucking walls, man.
Yeah.
We're only doing it to each other. We're only doing it to each other. There's nobody else is getting hurt from this.
Yeah.
You're only hurting your kids. You're only hurting each other. Like you think you're protecting them, but you're not.
Correct.
You're not. It's. I don't care if you're a parent of like 20, 30 years. You're not benefiting your kids by closing them up. You're just not. You should have them travel more. You should have them experience the world.
Absolutely.
You should have them be more open-minded to new ideas instead of holding on tight to old ones. You know what I mean? When your kids come up to you with a really good idea, with a new idea that you've never heard of, hey dad, I heard I can make money off of YouTube. Oh wow, that's fucking great. Like that is great. You know what I mean? Instead of being like, no, you should quit that shit. You should get a job like me. You should get a job like me and retire 30 years. And you know what I mean? That's terrible.
Like I feel like the need to like kind of cut down the creative part of a person is really prevalent, and I feel like because people aren't able to express themselves in the culture in a healthy way or in a medium that aligns with who they are, like they end up developing like these other negative habits,
right?
Or like conflict starts happening within the individual, and then they kind of spiral out a little bit. That's just something that I've seen.
I'm still on a contact high about like the neighbor that knocked on your door. I'm just like, oh man, I missed that. I missed that. You know what I mean?
It's really cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
And you know another habit that I learned from people in Georgia, from my version of Southern hospitality, is to always have like cards in your car, like a greeting card or a birthday card. Yeah, always have it. It's why I always carry a pen, and I don't do it anymore because I'm in the valley. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've seen it in Georgia and in Tennessee and parts of Oklahoma and Colorado. People have like cards in their car or at home, which is one like happy birthday, happy anniversary, you know, like good job, thank you, whatever. And you know, you just spend like $5 on a bunch of cards. And then when they're in a situation where they're just like, oh, I didn't get anything, because people are so nice to each other. They get invited to weddings all the time. They get invited to anniversaries all the time. They get invited to parties all the time. They're inviting each other constantly, so they always want to be prepared. So they always have these cards where just they handwrite them. It's like, hey, I made you a card, and they're just like, oh my god, that is so sweet. I made you a card too, and it's just like that. That's so nice. That's so nice because they're prepared to bring down a wall and be like, hey, I'm gonna do something genuine for you, and that's something that I learned very strongly from being outside of the valley. Is always be prepared to have a random act of kindness, towards somebody, and that was very nice.
That's a really good idea, because like something that I do for my office is like I like to make my people feel valued and appreciated for the work that they do for us. So like I went and I ordered like a bunch of birthday cards, like 46, so that everybody in the office on their birthday gets a card signed by everybody else saying happy birthday.
Yeah.
You know? But I think I should do that for their anniversaries too, like their work anniversaries.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. And that's something that I picked up from living up north, is that, hey, like, are you prepared to do a random act of kindness today? Like that was one thing. It's just like, hey, that's really nice. Yeah. And that's something that I learned. I'm not very religious, I'm more spiritual now. Yeah. But church over there is different. Church, like for example, when you go to church over there, it's uplifting. Like, hey, stand up. Yeah. Let's sing. Like over there, 80% of it is singing. It's not preaching. It's singing. Let's stand up, hold your neighbor's hand, and let's sing. And I'll tell you, black gospel is it'll change your life. Yeah. Yeah, it'll change your life.
But like a new man?
Oh yeah. 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 That's and being raised around that, it makes you realize, like, church makes you feel more like a community instead of like, hey, be quiet. They're talking about God. And they're scolding us because we're sinners. Yeah. You know what I mean? Whereas up in Georgia, that's more like, it's more of a spiritual uplifting. Yeah. Let's leave better than we came in. Yeah. Yeah.
No, like I remember like growing up in the Catholic Church, like family's like heavily Catholic. I'd say until like from when I was born until maybe my 20s, you know? Mm-hmm. So every Sunday you would get dressed to the nines, obviously. And then you would go and you would sit in church. You know, you go through the regular routine, and then like, you have to sit for 30 minutes. And I remember there would be times where I'd just be looking at the clock, just like...
yeah, that's how I felt when
I
came to church.
know, but I had to pay attention because we would get quizzed at the end on the way home.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's institutionalized. Yeah. That's very institutionalized.
Yeah. And then like whenever we would go on family road trips, we would pray the rosary while we were driving.
Yeah. That's boring.
Yes, it was.
And it gives religion a very very stale name. Not bad, it's just very stale, very flavorless. Whereas in Southern Hospitality Church, on the other hand, it's like, hey, stand up. Yeah. Hold each other's hands.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Hold each other's hands and let's sing. Let's sing. You know the words, and if you're new, that's okay. We have it up on a projector. Just sing along.
I guess that's why like the Christian churches have really kicked off here recently. Have you ever been to a Christian church? There's a lot of singing.
Yeah, I've been to both, but I've been to both here as well, and I've felt it the same. Same way, same thing as being in a Christian marriage, going to, attending a Christian marriage and attending a Catholic marriage. Same thing. People are very like, like, shut up, be quiet. Yeah. They're talking, you know what I mean? Like, you can't participate. Yeah, yeah. Whereas in...
like, get loud with it.
Yeah, up north, it's like people are like, they're reading, I don't know, when the preacher or the priest is reading, I don't know what it's called, but when
the sermon?
Yes, I think it was when he's reading the sermon, and if people agree in the audience, they're like, amen!
Yes!
Yes! Yes! And that feels so good.
It does.
It feels so good hearing that. It feels so good. It feels good. It's like, it makes you want to get married. You're like, man, you know what? These people are so fucking supportive. Yeah. Instead of like, shh, be quiet, your kids. Stop making noises. Like, over there, it's like, hey, the more noise, the merrier the celebration is. Now, it's just amazing.
And it's funny that you say that, because when I was living up north and then I finally moved back down to the valley, like, my way of interacting with people was just different, like very loud, like very like that, like yes, like let's go, yes girl, get it my guy, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so like people had a hard time with me at first. They were like, you're really loud.
Oh my God. They're not loud enough.
I know. Yeah. And then now that I play softball, like I get to be like that because it's a sport. It's like it's more accepted, socially acceptable, and it makes people laugh, right? So I guess you have to like pick and choose where you apply it here.
As a man, I feel like I just stopped. I just stopped choosing. I was like, you know what?
I'm just not gonna do it.
I'm just not gonna do it because I don't want to be. I don't want to be the situation where I snap back into reality. I'm like, yeah, I remember. I'm in the fucking valley. I'm in the valley. And it's like, you know what I mean? I don't want to remember.
I guess it's a little bit easier for me because I'm a woman and people are like, she's a woman. It's okay.
Yeah. maybe. You get away with a lot.
I do get away with a lot.
Especially because you're attractive and bubbly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Is there any notes you want to end this with, the post, for your listeners and viewers?
Like, I found myself thinking a lot lately, like, how do we help these people that are stuck in this cyclical, a la gente que le gusta la mala vida?
Yeah.
And then, like, I remember talks growing up listening to my grandmother talking to her sisters, like, in the living room, and at the end of the day, you just gotta learn to let it go, and hay gente que le gusta la mala vida.
Yeah.
Y déjalos.
Yeah. There's a very good line, or series of lines that my mentor has told me, and he told me that wisdom is understanding what is in your control and what is out of your control. And what is out of your control, you need to learn to let it go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that the people that don't let go, those are the people that deliberately like a bad life.
Yeah.
Because they just do not let go. They don't let go of culture. They don't let go of stereotypical gender roles. They don't let go of what their parents want their life to be versus what they want their life to be. You know what I mean? There's a very, very important difference in that. And they're not willing to make the sacrifices or the mistakes that your life requires. You know,
absolutely.
They rather be in a comfort zone, and then in a even bigger comfort zone, the valley. You know what I mean? And it's just so. That's what I would want a listener to take away from this, is like, understand that there is a difference between things that are in your control and things that are out of your control. And what is out of your control, you have to let it go. And the stuff that is in your control, do everything in your power to have it benefit you. And the people around you, of course.
Like, reflect.
Yes.
Take a look at it, accept responsibility where necessary.
Absolutely.
And then move forward. Because
absolutely.
I don't see enough people taking responsibility for their wrongs.
Yeah.
And it really makes a big difference when you say, I did that, I accept it, I'm willing to take the repercussions of it.
Yeah.
Now let's keep it pushing.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah.
As a people.
That's it. I'm about it.
That's